mere weeks after Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit, where a last-minute meeting with China's President Xi Jinping was kept short and produced no definite agreements to resolve growing tensions. China's currency is threatening the U.S. dollar for global oil trade, and a number of mysterious aerial devices believed to be China's spy balloons have crossed into U.S. airspace. Eben Brown, Fox News.
A nonprofit Boston-based civil rights legal group is challenging legacy admissions at Harvard University, saying the practice discriminates against students of color by giving an unfair boost to the mostly white children of alumni. Backlash against the practice has been building in the wake of last week's Supreme Court decision ending affirmative action in college admissions. I'm Rich Dennison, and this is Fox News.
Hello, everybody. This is Lawrence Sutton, and this is Tennessee Talks with Kip Capley. And today with me, I have Brandon Taylor, and then we have a special with us guest is Chris Morris. Chris Morris he is our state executive committee for Senate District 28, and he's also the chairman of the Giles County Republican Party. So we're starting off with that, and have to put in, Kip told me that we need to say this, guys, that what we're saying here as a disclaimer is our own opinion, and Kip will probably agree with most of it. So he just said, hey, just in case you guys, because he told me, Chris, he goes, I know how you and Chris are, and just want to make sure.
Well, I thank him for that, but he also wanted us to give a big shout out to Stryker's Restaurant for supporting this show. And we've been informed that Stryker's, unfortunately, is closed this week for remodeling. And I want to tell you, with Brandon Taylor sitting across from me and you, we all had a great meal there the other night. And one thing I can say about Stryker's Restaurant, I always get a wonderful meal, and the service is second to none.
I agree. Listen, we just started talking about it for the show, and I'm ready to go eat a salad right now. I was kind of bummed out that they're closed for the week.
I thought we'd get fish and fries tonight, guys.
That's what me and you got, wasn't
That's right. Amen.
Yeah.
But anyway, glad to be here in y'all's presence and good company and good folks.
Well, we're glad you're here. And I know that we had been talking earlier, and there's things that are near and dear to your heart. And one of the things that were near and dear to your heart is talking about the conservatism. And I want you to go over the conservatism of our area and how you have really been a big player in the area of our what we call the 64 corridor.
Yes, sir.
So would you please explain, tell the people what all you have been doing?
I'll be glad to. One thing that everybody that is in this 64 corridor stretching from the Hardin McNairy County line all the way over to the Lincoln Franklin County line, which encompasses, Hardin, Wayne, Lawrence, Giles, Lincoln, and Franklin counties. And you can even go up into Bedford, Marshall, Murray, Lewis, Perry. Great group of folks we have, and even Hickman County. We've stuck together quite a bit, a lot of camaraderie with these counties where we have built a true conservatism. One thing that I want to give a shout out is we have the most conservative part in our House and our Senate in the state of Tennessee. We have a great state representatives in Kip Capley, in Clay Doggett, Todd Warner, Scott Serpicki. We're fortunate to have these gentlemen in the House. They vote truly conservative. And then our Senator, Joey Hensley, that we have, wonderful guy. He just hates so bad that he lost Lawrence County in redistricting. And then butting up to Senator Hensley is Senator Janice Bowling.
Yes.
We have 33 state senators with 27 being Republicans, but we truly only have 7 very conservative Republicans in the Senate. And that's scary, guys, when we have a supermajority in all 3 houses. And out of the 99 state reps, we have 75 that are Republicans or got an R behind their name.
Sure.
And we have about 1/3 of those that are true conservatives.
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon and I are new to this game. We're coming in, and we had always looked in the past as politics as being dirty. And as we have gotten more and more involved, we are seeing that, yeah, a lot of the things that we thought of about politics is true. But then we have also seen some of the really good people. And we've been able to meet some of the really good people that are out there that are fighting for our rights and have been fighting for our rights. You've done a lot there in Giles County getting rid of what we refer to as smut in the county. And
yes, sir.
Can you explain and go over your participation in that?
Well, one thing that if I say anything wrong, Representative Doggett can call me and correct me. But when Clay was young, of course, his mother and dad were my next door neighbors.
Yeah.
And Clay, as a little kid, running in and out my back door. So I've been around Clay most of his life. And one thing that Clay, if he ever talks about it, started in our neighborhood was adult entertainment, right at the end of our street almost in our neighborhood. And in 98, 99, I said, this is not going to happen on my watch. So I got very politically involved, started fighting adult entertainment. And if people remember the I-65 corridor in Giles County from exit 22 down to exit 1 was getting inundated with adult entertainment.
Right.
And
Right.
now I'm proud to say we have one place in Giles County that's considered adult entertainment, and it's an adult bookstore. So we made some great accomplishments, great strides. Then I ran for county commissioner and just fought a lot of different things of modern day corruption, as I call it. And, you think you get one fire put out and you got three more that pop up when you get one extinguished.
Right.
So it's a constant battle. And I echo a friend of mine who everybody knows very well. He's assistant to the governor, John DeBerry, over in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yep.
Great guy. He says Christians have got to get off of their do nothing and quit leaning back on their elbows of do less and get up and take action. So the battle is that we're really in a spiritual warfare right now.
Absolutely. I mean, Brandon says this all the time, and if it doesn't make sense in the physical, it's spiritual.
Agree.
And
I do say that a lot.
And to me, if you can't explain what is happening in the physical, then it's spiritual. And that what you said, Brandon, it always resonates with me, and I use that saying all the time, especially when we're seeing the things that are happening today.
Right.
And it's been normalized. I mean, these things are being normalized right before our eyes. And that's why Brandon and I got involved, is because we could no longer sit home,
Sit idle.
and watch this happen.
That's right.
Well, I'm glad to have you two on board, because the more we get to know each other, the better we have an understanding of each other.
Sure.
And we're all on the same team.
Right.
And we're on the team of wanting to do right and what's pleasing in God's sight. Nothing else matters.
Yep.
When we look at it at the end of the day, nothing else matters. So I'm glad y'all are, and I'm glad you're here.
Well,
and
I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad Lawrence County has got some great leadership now in the Republican Party. So amen for y'all.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Just sitting here listening to you guys talk, I've realized that I'm sitting in the middle of the political Bermuda Triangle. So whatever,
Lord.
whatever comes in may not go out, and whatever gets in here may just be trapped and never seen again. But so today, I want to say that as we're going through this, we're not going to take any calls for all the listeners out there. But if you want to message us on Facebook, we will try to get to questions that would come in on Facebook. If someone wants to message us here at WDXE, we'd be glad to take a look at your questions. Hey, I'm glad to be in the middle of this. I love these political conversations that are going on. And Lawrence and I were talking. People may not know it, but Lawrence and I, we usually drive in together when we're going to do this show, because we're going through our days, and so we start talking about and kind of decompressing what we're going to put out here on a show. And as we're driving in, I said, there's a lot of negative going on in the political realm right now, and the fight has always been there. It's never been something that didn't exist, but I want to also put out there what I'm seeing that's positive. I'm seeing people that are really stepping up to the plate. They're recognizing who they are. They're recognizing that, hey, you know what? I have a role in this political thing. We've let someone else do this too long, and I have a responsibility to get up off my rear and do something. And I have another saying, I love to say it, and it's not mine, I borrowed it, but it's freedom is not your ability to do what you want to do. Freedom is your ability to do what you ought to do. So you have to take your freedoms and actually do what you're responsible as a citizen of this country, as a neighbor, as a person in your church. You have to get up and actually make something happen. And I'm actually seeing that, so I'm not we come in with some things that are negative a lot of times, but I hope, if anything, as we come forward and we work in the political, do things on the radio, as we're getting out there, I'm hoping that we can also shine a light on the people who are getting involved, such as yourself. You just gave a really positive, some feedback, and you're not going to see that on the news out of Nashville or somewhere. You're just not going to hear those kinds of things. But that's positive what you're saying, and I'm glad to hear it. We're winning. Anywhere we stand up to make a stand, we win.
Well, as long as you're in God's will, who can be against you? And I think that's the way I look at it. I look at the fact that we're not only in the fight for our lives, but we're in the fight for our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives. I mean, we'll have grandchildren before we know it if the good Lord doesn't come and get us, Brandon.
That's right.
And so,
I already do. So just to let you guys know,
Yeah.
I do have grandchildren.
Yeah, you
so
do. But if the
there's a
Lord
lot
be
at
for
stake.
us,
who can be
if
against
the
us?
Lord be for us, you better not be against us.
That's correct.
One thing I want to say before we get too much further, I am so proud of this radio station in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Amen.
With WDXE really willing to stand up, take a stance, and have conservative talk. I think it's one of the best things that can be done for southern Middle Tennessee. We're just about a little bit too far for Super Talk 99.7 out of Nashville. I can't pick it up good in Giles County. I don't know about you guys in Lawrence, but
no, we can't.
Anyway, this will help cover southern Middle Tennessee and down into North Alabama. And I'm going to tell you, one thing about the great state of Tennessee, they're coming after us. The Democrats want to turn us blue. There's no hiding it.
Right.
And I don't mind, I've got some folks, I still consider them friends, but I kind of keep them a little closer and keep an eye on them with the Democrats than I do the Republicans. I know where they stand. These Democrats, just remember the last four letters in Democrats is rats.
Right.
And the last four letters in Republican is I can. So remember that. And I stole that from somebody else. That's not my copyright.
Okay.
But, this is great, and I'm just so proud that somebody's willing to take a stance in this southern Middle Tennessee, North Alabama corridor. And Alabama is our friends and our neighbors. Tennessee has the strongest constitution of any state in the union, and Alabama's number 2. So we're finally ahead of Alabama in something.
Well,
Right.
So,
that's
Well,
but,
Alabama.
and our flag looks a lot better.
It does.
Okay.
Alabama just wishes they had a flag that looks as good as ours. I'm
It's
sorry.
Tennessee.
Well, Alabama. I mean, you got to admit though, Alabama did invent the toothbrush. If it had been invented anywhere else, it'd been teeth brushes.
been the teeth brush. That's
right.
right.
So we love you,
Amen.
Alabama.
How far across Alabama are we broadcasting?
About 20 miles, I think.
Okay. We love y'all. Eat it, strikers.
But fun is Alabama loves to poke fun at us, and we poke fun back. And I just tell all of my Alabama football fans one thing you need to remember: Tide washing powder still comes in big orange boxes. So roll Tide.
Roll Tide. You brought up something about just now about what we're facing with the deceptions and everything else, and how but they're coming for us. And the deceptions are out in the open now, and they're not even trying to hide the deceptions. And I want to segue that in, and this is where I'm coming at, because you shared with me what you're doing over in Giles County, putting up billboards. And
Yes, sir.
and the one I want to talk about in general is the one that you put up about drag queens. Can you tell us what you put up there?
Yes, sir. I don't want to make a mistake by no means, and I shared this with you this morning, Lawrence. And you know how it is. You get on your phone and you got about 22 new texts. But this morning I shared this with Lawrence. He asked me, and this is not the only slide that we've got up. We've got billboards, digital billboards going in Ardmore, 2 different locations in Pulaski. But what we come up with about drag queens, with all this pride mess in the month of June, and, you know, guys, they knocked on our door 3 years ago. And y'all are our neighbors. Don't think it won't happen in your community as well.
Now, just to reiterate who you are, is you are the Lawrence County GOP chairman.
You mean Giles County.
Giles County. But I knew I was going to get that wrong. That's why I even wrote it down.
Hey,
Look
you're
at that.
human.
Look at there. I proved it. Yes, you are Giles County GOP chairman. And so the Giles County Republican Party actually, did they pay for these billboards, or how was this financed? Can I ask that question?
Yeah, very fair question. I'll tell you in just a second. I want to answer Lawrence's real quick.
Gotcha.
One of our billboards says, "Ask not why children shouldn't see drag queens. Ask why drag queens crave an audience of children." Now think about that. Let that resonate with you for a second. But to answer Brandon's question on financing, we took none of our funds out of our Republican Party coffers.
Okay.
What we did is people chipped in, made donations, and I was shocked at people giving $400 donation, $200 donations, $100 donations, $50 donations. We had a lot of great support that we were able to secure these billboards, one of them for 2 months, because I made a 2-month commitment to the company, and they're great people to do business with. And the other company in Ardmore, and they have one in Pulaski, we did theirs for a month, and it actually expires on the 8th. And we do have a little extra money that we will continue, but I've had some people to say, hey, get a static billboard and keep the sign up all the time. I used to have one that said, let's make Giles County great again, vote Republican. So I had that one up for a long time. So, but anyway, that's a very fair question, and I appreciate your question, Brandon.
Well, and the reason why I was going with that, I'll just share my angle, is because we want to do some things like that in Lawrence County as well. We see good ideas. I think it's a great idea, especially having it there with the traffic that you have available. But we have a lot of traffic that comes right in on Highway 43, right down into Lawrenceburg. And spoiler alert, I'm very transparent. I've been eyeballing some of these billboards for a while, and I think we need to get the Lawrence County Republican Party involved in putting out some message. We need to see a positive message come forth, and we're called as Christians to shine a light into the darkness.
We're not supposed to sit there with our mouth shut.
That's correct.
We're not. And that was profound when you told me about that, because it kind of segues in to what I've been feeling and seeing when we have. There's called the San Francisco Gay Choir. Now, they use the word gay, but they're homosexual or they're a sodomite. That's what God calls them. And their song that they put out is, "We will convert your children."
We're coming after your children.
We'll convert your children. Then this past weekend, from San Francisco to New York, you had groups of people celebrating gay pride. Okay? And they are saying, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. And you know what? This is the thing. And Brandon and I, we were talking about this as we're riding in. So I'm a numbers guy. So I'm constantly looking at numbers, and numbers resonate with me. And right now, a Gallup poll, and Gallup is, it's a pretty good poll. Gallup in 2022 did a poll, and they have found that only 86% of all Americans currently right now identify as heterosexual. So I want you to think about that, because when we were growing up, we thought that the homosexual community was 1%, maybe 2%. But Gallup told us that as of 2022, that only 86% identifies as heterosexual. So here's the crazy part. Baby boomers, 91% identifies as heterosexual. Gen X, and Gen X is Brandon and I. 89% identifies as heterosexual. Millennials, okay, 82% identifies as heterosexual. And the new generation, this Gen Z, this is 1997 to 2003. This is where my son falls into and Brandon's son falls into. 75% identifies as heterosexual. 25% do not. Now, you want to talk about numbers. I mean, really think about that, those numbers. Those to me are huge. And we think that, oh, well, they're a small minority. And it's not. But I will tell you what is a small minority, but it's gaining traction. And that's the transgenderism. Transgenderism was done by the same Gallup poll. The 13 to 17-year-old age group, 1.43% identifies as transgender. The next age group, which is that Gen Z age group, 18 to 24, 1.31% identifies as transgender. Now, 25 years and up, so 25 to 100, 105, whatever, 0.38% identifies. So I bring these numbers up to say this. They're telling us what they are doing. And when they say, we will convert your children, when they say, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children, they mean it. I mean, and I hate saying it like that, but they do mean it.
No, you're speaking the truth. There's nothing wrong with the truth. But, I always say, why do our politicians on a federal level or state level listen to the 1.5 percenters? So my statement that I make about 1.5 percenters is still correct according to the Gallup poll.
Right, on the transgenders, absolutely.
I'm sorry it's that much, but we bow down to the 1 percenters. Think back before any of us were thought about we let one atheist female at the time start the movement to take prayer out of school.
Right.
What was right about that?
Right.
Nothing.
But let's give a big shout out. I want to give a shout out, one, to our Giles County executive and our county commission in Giles County. These people work feverishly to put together a plan to stop this homosexual and transgenders and drag shows at our Giles County Agri Park. So they were very successful. Where I'm upset, and I want to make it loud and clear, where I'm upset in my home county, in the city of Pulaski, is our Board of Mayor and Aldermen did nothing. They all voted in favor to let them use our square this year. I don't care what excuse you use. I ain't worried about a lawsuit. Everybody loves to pump that 4-letter word, fear, into everybody, just like COVID. Now we got this going on. You could have still voted no. Do what's right, always in God's sight. Nothing else matters. So if they get mad at me, they got the same pants to get glad. But I want to give a big shout out to our Supreme Court last week.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Those rulings coming in, it's amazing. Isn't it amazing how you see the media running a slanted angle on everything? It's anti-Christian, anti-faith, and then the Supreme Court just comes in and just slaps them right across the face.
Spanked them.
It was bad. But what a conservative court means for our country is freedom for the citizens of this country. That's what it means. And all that was an attack on our freedoms. It was not taking away anyone's right to choose how they want to live. It was actually giving us a right as Christians to decide how we want to be able to make a decision on how we want to live. And on a small business and things, if it doesn't fall in line with what your beliefs are, you do not have to serve that type of customer if you don't want to. And I thought it was a strong statement coming in on this.
There was 3 major strong statements issued this past week. So thank God that we've got good conservatism on there. And the first thing you hear Smoking Joe say he couldn't. He was so tore up trying to speak in that live press conference. What was it, on Friday?
Yeah, Friday.
He didn't know whether he was washing or hanging out. I got a question for him. I want to see if he can answer this. Does he know if Jesus was crucified, or does he think he was killed by the Indians? I hadn't figured that one out for him yet.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I don't think he honestly knows where he's at. And we know this. You know, this was not an election. It was a selection. And we are facing the consequences because we allowed these to happen.
Right. I think everybody out there in WKS, I almost said WKSR, your sister station, but WDXE listening area, and who are watching on YouTube, number one, thank you. But
Yes.
number two, you know, we know the mess we've got, and I think from whether you're 90 or you're 25, we've seen the biggest decline in the past 18 to 30 months that we've ever seen, I know, in my lifetime and your lifetime.
Absolutely. You know, I heard a joke the other day, and somebody said that, you know, Jimmy Carter can now rest knowing that he will not go down as the worst president of the history because of what we have seen.
I agree with that statement.
So, what do you think's next on? You know, you didn't touch on all three of those. You just kind of briefly mentioned it. But what do you think is next on as far as the striking down, the paying off of the college debt? They're going to have to deliver on some promises that they made, and the Democrat Party made some promises, and they're trying to make good on that. But what do you think? You're holding up a copy of the Constitution of the United States.
A hardback copy, too.
Hardback copy.
That's right.
And I understand what you're saying, but what I'm asking is what do you think Joe Biden's? What do you think his next move is going to be? So this failed. It failed miserably. I mean, it made him look even worse. I mean, when you try something and you fail like this, it's I don't know. It was a disaster for him.
I laugh. I don't know if anybody out there or you guys have ever read a book, Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah, a long
And
time
there was-
ago, but yes.
Yeah. Who moved his cheese? There was two rats named Him and Haw. Well, his cheese just got moved, and he's trying to figure out who moved his cheese. If you relate back to that book
Yeah.
is wonderful, and he's scratching his head and probably his rear end at the same time trying to figure out who moved his cheese. Now, they're going to come at it again.
Yep.
You can bet your bottom dollar, and we got to be ready, but it's against the Constitution to start paying off debt. We all incur debt. So is our government going to give us $10,000 for you to help pay off your mortgage, or
Right.
you,
Right.
or me? Are we going to get the same $10,000?
Right.
What, under the Civil Rights Act, what is equal about that? Not one thing.
Not one thing. And you know, I remember that when you say it. My wife, she had college debt. You know, when she had graduated from college, she carried debt. You know, she had to borrow money. You know, she got a scholarship. She worked full time during the summer, but she still incurred some debt. And for us to buy our first home, and we bought our first home in 1997, we had to pay off, and it was like $2,000 or $3,000. We had to pay off that student loan debt before we would qualify for that
your
mortgage.
Loan. Wow.
That was a lot of extra overtime me and her had to put in. We were working 2 and 3 jobs at the time trying to get in.
But you managed.
Oh, absolutely, we managed.
So now, if they try again, are they going to come back in the federal government? Is Joe Biden going to put in his plan to give you a stipend for your $10,000 for your hard work that you did to pay off your wife's debt, you and your wife? Are they going to issue a stipend for $10,000 or a credit?
So I will tell you this, even if they did, I wouldn't take it.
Appreciate that.
I wouldn't take it.
That's great.
I didn't take any of the COVID money either.
Well, great. It's, hey, these handouts, people have become what I call another extension of the government, recipients.
That's correct.
They're making us recipients of the government. And all these entitlement programs that have gone, and they were all created by Democrats.
Oh, yes.
Think about it.
Yes.
So But, right here in Tennessee, within our borders, we're surrounded by 8 great states as well. But think about this. We got August 21 coming up, fast and furious.
Fast and furious.
And I want everybody out there, John Rich is the one that instilled this, and he sent messages. He wants us calling it Red Flag Down.
That's correct. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Everybody that's listening, and any of our politicians that are listening that are going to be up for re-election, if we go through and we have this special session come August 21st, know this, that early voting will begin August 21st. So remember that when you get these opportunities when you have to vote. And we're telling everybody this. Any politicians that we have come across, I tell them, I'm going to let you know.
So we're issuing a report card on them.
No, we're doing more than that.
Okay.
We're issuing a rebuttal, or we'll even take it a step further. We'll replace you.
I agree with that because, the sad thing, and I think you guys, I think Scott Serpicki was on the show last week with Lawrence County Republicans, not the Kip Capley show.
Right.
And Scott, I've heard him say, and there again, he'll ring my phone if I'm wrong as well, but I think we got 24 Democrats in the House.
Right.
We know where those 24 Democrats, how they're going to vote.
That's correct.
Now, we do, there are some guys up there that are Democrats that won't vote that are gun-toting folks.
So we have some Democrats that will vote against this.
And they're going to vote against. They're for, no. They're all going to stick together.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
They're going to be like fleas on a dog.
Okay.
They're all going to stick together, but there are some of them who they believe in the Second Amendment, and they will tell you individually, but they are not going to come out and tell you publicly. So those 24 are going to stick together, but what I am being told, out of the 75 Republicans, there's 26 that Governor Lee can already count on that's going to side with the 24 Democrats. And you do the math on that, Brandon, that comes up to 50 quickly, don't it?
That does.
And that is so sad when we've got this super majority and we got some super squishy. You've heard me say this,
Squishy,
Lawrence.
yes.
We've got some squishy Republicans in the House and Senate, and they need to find a place at their home address. That's where they need to go in the next election.
Right.
And we're going to be putting out, I didn't talk about, but there was a coalition of Republicans. There was 3 of us that formed it. We're actually 4. 2 from Murray County, 1 from Lawrence, and myself from Giles, where we work with Southern Middle Tennessee on trying to keep everybody abreast of all issues going on. But remember, the 21st, the governor first looked at May of having a special session, then bumped it to July, then to the 21st of August. And one thing that I will say to our governor, and I know Lawrence County has issued a statement, mine is going out, it's done and signed off by all of my executive committee. I'm sending it to all 133. That includes the governor.
Right,
They're
correct.
fixing to get a copy of it.
That's what we did.
We
as
did,
well.
yep.
Y'all did the same thing.
did.
And a lot of Republican parties across the state have. So we've got to get ready. The governor has now pushed it to the 21st, and I hope he hears me loud and clear. And I hope somebody shows him this YouTube video. Because one of the things I question in the back of my mind, if you're so conservative, you're sure not acting like it. And number 2, why are you waiting to when the schools like Vanderbilt and Belmont and TSU, they all get back in session? And is that to where you can have more people up there to help push your red flag agenda?
Well, it is, and I'll tell you why it is. It saves them a lot of money. It saves George Soros money from having to bus them back in and then bus them back out. You're going to have some already there.
So we got to work smarter.
Not only do we have to work smarter, but I want to say this. Bill Lee talks about that is for public safety. Okay, that he's wanting to do this for public safety. That's the main thing. Well, if you really want to make all these mass shootings go away, don't have gun-free zones. 98.4% of all mass shootings happen in gun-free zones.
Amen. You made me think. Yeah, candle. My light went on. This
Yeah.
is not Motel 6, but my
Right.
light did go on.
Did he say his light was a candle?
Well, I
Don't blow too hard.
did stay at a Holiday Inn Express now.
Oh, you're smarter.
Oh, yeah, I'm
But
smarter.
anyway, long story short, you think about back in the Western days when we came in. You know, all of us are immigrants. We came from somewhere
Yeah,
else to this
absolutely.
great country. Okay?
Absolutely.
So we're all immigrants. Okay. Now that we're here, back in the Wild West days, and when we started, the Over Mountain men started coming over into Sevierville and Greenville and Cades Cove and Gatlinburg and that area, and started settling west. This was North Carolina territory before
Correct.
it was Tennessee.
Yes, that's right.
You didn't have to worry about somebody stealing stuff. They knew everybody carried a gun.
Right.
And everybody respected that. Now, there was still people who were lawless, and that's always going to be the case.
Yeah, but they got hung up from the nearest tree, though.
Now we could put them before a firing squad today. But anyway, things happen, okay? And there were still people back then who got out of control, but they were dealt with. And, you know, we used to have capital punishment. We used to be hardcore on stuff. Yeah, they got a fair trial.
Right.
But, man, the sentence was carried out. They wasn't lifetime dowries or recipients off of the taxpayers sitting in a jail.
That's correct.
Okay? Now, we don't need more jails. We need capital punishment. You do the crime, you're going to die.
Yeah.
I agree.
You know, and that's just the way it needs to be. And anybody that it hurts their feelings, I'm not sorry. It needs to hurt your feelings.
But typically the same people that hurts their feelings are the same ones that said it's okay to rip an unborn child out of a mother's womb and kill an innocent.
Yeah.
We will kill the innocent in this country, and we'll let the guilty go free.
The true statement. Very true statement.
And I tell you another thing too. When I see those things happening, all societies, if we do not, and this is why we're getting involved, Chris, but all societies that have come to the precipitous where we're at right now fail. When you have the lawlessness going, when you have good being called evil and evil being called good, those civilizations, yeah, Jesus said it over 2,000 years ago, but we can even go before Jesus and we can go after Jesus. When you look at these civilizations that failed, they failed because of the things that we're seeing now.
The wicked ways. You know, the whole moral of the story is we don't have, people want to holler gun control. Mm-hmm. We don't have a gun control problem in this country.
No.
We've got a mental illness problem. I still holler, hey, we need to see that manifesto. Before that House goes into a special session, that manifesto should be released. Pure and simple. There's something in there they don't want us to know, and we have a right to know. And then the second thing is, you know, we have a mental illness problem. The second thing is we've got a sin problem in this country.
Yes, we
big
do.
time.
We do.
Look at the people that's turned away. Look how COVID, what all it did to us. And people still are acting COVID crazy and COVID lazy today.
Right.
And you look at all the people trying to hire, nobody wants to work. You can't get people to work.
They got too much free money.
And they got too much free money, but then they want to tell you what you're going to pay them, the whole 9 yards. It's sort of like everybody's kind of run amok. And it's time for us to stand up and fight for what's right.
Well, the problems in America today did not start in the White House or in the State House.
Started
or
in
in
the
the
outhouse.
courthouse. Didn't even start in the outhouse, Chris.
Right.
Started in a church house.
In the church house.
That's where our problems have sprang out. So, you know, and that's why when we get on a political show, we talk a lot of faith. I mean, that's that's who we are. We're just going to be who we are when we come into a political meeting, when we're engaging with politicians, we're engaging with folks like yourself. We're just going to be who we are. We're going to try to be real. I told someone yesterday, I like the fact that if you know me personally and you hear me on the radio, or if you come to the Republican Party meeting that's in the courthouse or wherever we are, West End Community Center, whatever we've got going on, I'm going to be the same person. I'm not going to change for a position. And so I'm gonna tie something in. I borrowed something from another preacher that I heard recently, and he's talking about politicians. And so I'm gonna pitch this out there. And he used two terms, and the two terms were practice and promote. So we see politicians, and they're going to have two actions. They're going to be promoting things, and the Democrat Party has a platform that it promotes things. It promotes ideology that we don't agree with. It promotes abortion. It promotes homosexual marriage, and we fundamentally just disagree with that as our faith. Well, I want to tell you that you'll see the Democrats come back and they'll tear apart a Republican over some things that they've practiced, not what they promoted. And people I want people to hear me loud and clear. Number one, when we go to vote for someone, we're not electing a pastor. We're electing a politician, a representative. Right. And you'll see people that go out and they're out there voting, and they're voting as conservative as anyone could, but in their personal life,
it's a mess.
You'll see them have a mess. Mm-hmm. And they'll come forward and say they're owning it. And so their practice, sometimes we fail as people. We fail as human beings. We all do.
That's the reason Jesus died on the cross.
You fail exactly. And so you fail. But on that, I want to encourage people as they're starting to get involved. And I'm seeing some young people coming involved. Lawrence and I were at a get together yesterday. We talked to some young folks at ages 30 and under that are wanting to get involved in conservative politics. Well, let me say this to those people. Quit focusing on what everyone practices, and let's focus on what people are promoting. That's what are their voting records? Because I see, if you watch a Democrat tear apart a conservative, they're going to go after their practice. And it may be something where they had a divorce, or they had just a lot of drama in their home life. But then you look, and it's like they'll come forward, hey, I messed up. I shouldn't have done this. I'm human. They're constantly under scrutiny. The media is waiting, and I've heard stories after story, and hopefully one day we can talk about some of these stories where they're literally waiting for opportunity to pounce on conservatives, and they start building these stories up, trying to corner them. And I've heard about these. I've heard about some last week already. Yep. And what they're going to do is try to tear down a conservative elected official that we put in office, and maybe they've got some stuff in their life they need to clean up. And I'm not saying that's good. I'm not condoning that. That's wrong, and they need to do it. But we cannot let them tear us apart because of practice versus what's being promoted. The Democrat Party platform and what they promote on their party platform is what we are absolutely in war with. What they're promoting. So as people are getting involved, we're going to be watching. So I'm going to bring all this back together to all the elected officials that are conservatives, that do go to church on Sunday. Don't come tell me what you practice. I want to see on August 21st what you're promoting. Amen. So I'm bringing it all back around and say, don't come tell me about how, I don't care if you've been a friend of the NRA before it was the NRA. I don't care if you were in there. I don't care if Charlton Heston signed your membership. I just don't care. What I'm worried about, I don't care. What I'm concerned with is what are you promoting? And I want to, if we're doing anything political, you're going to see me really pushing. What is this individual promoting? And we've got to stand guard as citizens, as those who are electing officials. We've got to help those out and help them out and not let the media tear them down for some practice in their life. And they're constantly looking. I mean, I can name you conservative after conservative, and I won't name names. So I could go down the list, and you can think of them right now where the media has come after them, and they're like, well, they lied on their resume in 1971. And you go look at their voting record, and it's like they're voting like an A+ voting record. Everything they're voting on stands for conservative principles, but yet they're going to be torn down over something they did in 1984. So you're going to hear me really pushing that. That's my thoughts on that.
Well, you want to, I hope a lot of people don't know, and it's a good way to share knowledge, but do you know who gave Joe Biden his start in politics? It was a fella Tennessean. in 1972. A guy by the name of Albert
Gore.
Gore Sr.
Yes, I knew where you were going with that.
So-
I had heard that story before.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Lawrence and Brandon, y'all both right. The
You know
time
what?
flies when you're having
Yeah.
fun. It seems like we've been talking for 7 minutes. But just one thing that we need, and a couple other things we want to mention, but want to wrap up on August 21. Everybody needs to prepare that this is going to happen, because the governor hasn't issued the call. He's just stated a date. So
he's trying to
what
get
I'm-
his ducks lined up.
That's
is what
right.
He's doing.
He's meeting with legislators, bringing them in up to the governor's mansion and having coffee and donuts and talking with them and trying to say, okay, here's what we need to do. And you know, the thing about it is, red flag down. John Rich hit it right. Red flag down. But we need to prepare. And we have looked into busing people up there.
Yes.
These legislators want to see our faces. During the Tennessee 3, and I hate to even mention it, but it's bad when you look around and I'm sitting on one side of the gallery and there's only 2 of us. Out of 150, there's only 2 of us, and we get singled out real quick when you got a mob up there.
That's
and
okay.
these legislators want to see faces like yours, Lawrence, like yours, Brandon, yours, Charlotte, and like mine.
Right.
They want to see us up there. So we were going to look at chartering buses, and these quotes kind of get expensive.
Right.
You know, Biden's inflation, Bidenomics has really killed everybody.
Right.
But we may need to reach out to our churches and to folks who have vans. We can get some things done. I encourage people in Lawrence County to get in touch with you and Brandon. Lawrence, that needs to happen. We need to organize. We need to all go in unison.
Yes, we do.
And we need to get up there and fill that gallery. We need 350 folks committed.
Well, and you know what? I think that is more than doable. Number one, I will say this: I was talking to a politician. I'm not going to name him, but we were talking about Bill Lee bringing in all these legislators to talk about his agenda. And make no mistake, this is his agenda. This is Bill Lee's agenda. And I said, as you know, tongue in cheek, I said, what have you heard? What's being said? And they're telling me a little bit. And I said, well, what is he doing? Is he having a meal prepared and everything else? And he's like, well, I think there's, he's having some food and stuff come in. And I said, well, was he serving up pork? And when I said, what is he serving up pork? I mean, he like he sucked on a lemon, he couldn't believe I said
Sort of
that.
like pig and a pork. Huh?
That's right, and but I'm going to say this too, and we kind of got a little bit off topic, but Bill Lee, that is bringing this to fruition or trying to bring this to fruition, he needs to understand something. He's talking about for the public good. Here's the public good. Whatever happens August 21st and beyond, he's going to own this. And you're going to put a very volatile situation because unlike in the past, Chris, I do believe the conservatives are going to come out. The conservatives are going to come out even more so than they did even with the
You talking about the state income tax under Sundquist?
Yes. So I think you'll even see more people coming out than that, and you're going to have 2 sides on totally opposite ends on hot August days.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the other thing, and you brought this up. Why August? Why in August? Here's another reason why in August. There's no other assembly or anything going on, so they can bus as many people
That's right.
as they want to bring out their agenda.
And
If this happens,
And they are, make no mistake, they are coming after Tennessee. If they can get Tennessee to fall, they can get the whole country to fall. We are that beacon of light.
it's that domino effect.
And not only is that domino effect, we are that beacon of light.
Right, because Tennessee, we've always been volunteers.
Yep.
And, they're adding to the state motto, send me.
Clay Doggett.
That's right.
Let's give Clay Doggett.
Clay Doggett, a big shout out to Clay on
Yes.
that. And, for years it's been agriculture and commerce. But one thing, too, we need to get prepared for the 21st. But before our time slips away, we want to give a shout-out to Strikers again.
Oh, yes.
And their great food, great service, and great program they put together here for KIP.
Yes.
But we want to talk a little bit about the shadow. And you got two words written down I want to touch on as well. The shadow of Randy McNally. Everything with this unfortunate Covenant school shooting, these 3 folks acting like morons, taking over the well. Let's call it what it is.
Yes.
That should have never happened. But all this has overshadowed what he's done. And I know that there's been one state representative, State Representative Todd Warner, has called for Randy McNally's resignation or removal. I stand with Todd.
I agree.
He needs to go.
He does.
Yes.
And everybody needs to be blowing it up on this too. It kind of goes off in the shadows. It gets swept under the carpet. And Randy McNally, I told a person 2 years ago, when that guy pulled that bill to make the Bible the official book of the great state of Tennessee, I said, we got a problem with him.
Yep, he did not want
There
the
was your
Bible to
warning.
be the official
There
book
was
of
your
Tennessee.
warning.
Yep.
And now the light has come on.
Right.
And we all know what he did with young minors.
Underage.
Boys.
Yes, boys. He probably didn't like the word sodomite in the Bible.
Well, that's probably why he wanted the Bible not to be the official book of the great state of
That's
Tennessee.
right.
But let's call a spade a spade. That's what a lot of times we, including Christians and conservatives, we don't carry it to the end. We get halfway there and we back and we start going down the hill. Well, let's climb and go over the hill and be known again as what Tennessee did in the American Revolution. The Over Mountain men at Kings Mountain, North Carolina, and they were great folks from Tennessee. There were North Carolinians, South Carolinians, Georgians, and Tennesseans that won the Revolutionary War. And there's been a lot of blood and sacrifice for freedom for this country. Freedom isn't free.
No.
We have to fight for it every day.
That's right.
And, you know, I want to see McNally removed. If he don't remove himself from office, I think they need to remove him.
They do. And, you know, when bringing up a couple of points, you know, on McNally, bringing up a couple of points is that we have a guy that also is promoting this red flag laws as much as Bill Lee is, number one.
Yeah.
And I mean, but that's not my issue. There's a couple of our representatives that will disagree with me, you, and Brandon on the red flag laws. I don't have an issue with them. You know, they're entitled to their own opinion, just like we're entitled to our own opinion. But when you have gone and you have stepped across that line, and it's not like he said, she said. He let it out on social media, even. All people had to do was, and then they did. They went and read his social media, and it got out.
Well, Saturday Night Live did a skit on it, so I'm not a fan of Saturday Night Live, but
I've never even
sure
seen it. I haven't watched
made Tennessee look pathetic.
Well, I'm
Right.
glad you mentioned Tennessee and the great state of Tennessee. Tomorrow is Independence Day.
Amen.
And I just want to say before we run out of time, thank you to every veteran, man and woman that has served this great nation. Thank you. You stood for freedom. Thank you to every individual that has been becoming active in our community, in our counties, in Giles County. Those have been active. Those that are becoming active. I want to encourage them to go forward. I also want to say that the Lawrence County Republican Party, I want to thank every one of those people that have been supportive of what's going on. We've gotten a lot of great feedback. People are excited about what's going on in our county. This is the greatest nation that has ever been on the face of the planet. There's nothing like it. And out of that nation, Tennessee is the freest state in that nation. I tell my children all the time, you live in the freest nation and in the freest state within that nation. There's no place like Tennessee on the face of the planet.
All these men in this book that Lawrence is going to hold up, and
Yeah.
it's our hardback copy of the
Here, you hold it.
Constitution. I have the Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights. It's a very great document, and all these men were led by God.
Oh, God
Every one of
bless
them.
it. God
And a
bless
lot of people said the other day, these old men, well, the average age was 32. They were not old men. So, listen, we've enjoyed it, and thanks again to WDXE, and
Yes.
thanks to State Representative Kip Capley. And
Yes.
also to the Strikers Restaurant.
Absolutely.
Glad to have them.
Yes.
And I'm glad to be in your community. Thank y'all for having me, Kip. Appreciate you calling me, want me to come over. Hope I didn't embarrass you, brother. But
No,
hey, listen,
man,
Giles County is right there with you. We got a lot of great conservatives, and we're going to stand proud. We're going to stand tall, and we're going to take care of it.
W287 AA and
Thank you.
W237 FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
Taste some of this.
This
OMG.
is the